the Mindset Athlete Podcast, and I'm your host, James Roberts. I'm a two-time Paralympian and owner of James Robert Fitness, which is an online training, nutrition, and mindset coaching business. First of all, I'd like to thank Lauren Williams for suggesting this quote to the show. An athlete is a mindset. It's how you prepare, think, and execute. Not because of some elite status or physical stature. Anybody can be an athlete. By Chris Hart. And each week on the Mindset Athlete, we like to bring you inspirational athletes, a message, or experts talking about human optimization to teach you how to change your perception of your mindset and become 1% better. And on today's show, I've got Matt Branch. Matt is a former D1 collegiate football athlete who played for LSU. He lost his leg in a hunting accident 11 months ago. He has had to relive his college training and diet schedule to prepare himself to become a successful amputee and prosthetic user. So welcome onto the show, Matt.
Thanks, James.
So beyond the initial introduction I have given you there, Matt, is there any little nugget that you want to add to it to give to my audience?
Yeah, sure. So as you mentioned, I lost my leg in an accident 11 months ago. And, I just want everybody to understand that, before the accident happened, I was fat. I was out of shape. I was probably 280 pounds. I still had basically all my playing weight. I failed to lose it. After my career ended at LSU, I was poor diet, drank too much alcohol, all these things. And then, when this tragic thing happened to me, I don't know what it did. It just kind of, woke something up inside of me that had been there all along. And, something that I had failed to tap into in my past. And I don't know, here I am today. And, I'm just here to share my story and kind of hope that, maybe I can inspire others that, it's never too late to get started. You can always change your body, change your mindset any given day. And, you can reach your goals.
Do you think in terms of obviously resulting towards alcohol and kind of losing sight of where you were going in life in terms of obviously weight loss, in terms of weight management, should I say, sorry, that you didn't have a purpose and be it from, and I'm going to put this into context for you, Matt, is because obviously you've got a training schedule routine built around virtually 6 to 7 days a week. Do you think because once you've left your institution, you kind of lose sight of that because what has become customary for you for almost 25 years is no longer there?
Yeah, definitely. I would say when I was there, they put us through the ringer. We were, training, doing stuff every single day. And I guess when you get done with that, you almost feel burnt out to a sense. And, some people continue to, do that regiment and they move on and play at the next level. And, but the majority of us, we didn't get the opportunity to play at the next level. And, a lot of my friends and stuff will all say the same thing. After you've been through 4 or 5 years of, training hell, basically, you're just tired of it and you're burnt out, and that may not be the best thing for us physically, because a lot of guys, they tend to get overweight like I was and, just kind of lose track of their health. And, you wake up and it's 10 years down the road and you're still, 280, 300 pounds. That's what you were playing at. And there's no reason to be that big, out in the real working world. So, yeah, I would definitely say it's something that, and it's different for everybody. But for me, it was something that I just felt like I was burnt out, and I just kind of wanted a break. And I used that as an excuse to, I guess, basically not have to revisit those painful moments in the gym,
But would you put that down to physical fatigue, mental fatigue, or just a combination of the two?
I'd say it's a combination, but for me, it was probably mostly mental fatigue. I was just at a point when I was playing down there that I felt like I was spinning my wheels and I wasn't getting anywhere. And it wasn't because I wasn't physically talented. It was basically because I was not mentally preparing myself every day to show up and put in the hard work and put in the time to really make a difference for me athletically and build a career for me down the road, an NFL career. I had several guys that I played with who've gone on to be just extremely talented, NFL players and who've had great careers. And, one thing I could say that was consistent among all those people were their work ethic. They showed up and they put out every single day. They worked hard. They had a different kind of air to them than the rest of us did. And it really was something to watch and learn from. And then, when this happened to me 11 months ago, I thought back on those days and remembered seeing, okay, these were the guys that were successful. They were the guys that were mentally tough and mentally ready. Every single day they showed up ready to go. And I basically decided then and there, I've got to adapt that mindset, that way of thinking for me to be successful as an amputee moving forward. It really was a big learning moment for me when I was down there. And, I took it hard because I didn't necessarily feel like I had been cheated. I felt like I had cheated myself in a way. And it was hard to revisit those days and think about that, think of an opportunity that was squandered, and then to wake up and almost get like a second chance at an athletic career as an amputee. James, you've been involved in athletics as an amputee, and there's lots of opportunities out there for us. And I just felt like this was something that I needed to do, that I was led to do to make the most of my situation for me and my family down the road.
Do you think also, Matt, being your athletic background, being at the collegiate level, has helped you maybe get over, the stumbling blocks that you'll hear other amputees talk about, adversity, in terms of having to overcome, be it not necessarily the physical adaptations, which that's going to depend on different circumstances, but do you think you were put in a better position mentally to overcome this new challenge because of the physical hardship you put your body through day in, day out, just to a sense survive at the collegiate level?
Definitely. When I woke up and they told me I'd lost my leg at the hip and I would become an hip disarticulation amputee, immediately we Googled it and started to read up on it. And, we could not find any positive experience out of a hip disarticulation amputee. For anybody out there who's familiar with it, it's extremely difficult, extremely rare as well. It's not every day that you're going to see, somebody amputated all the way at the hip. It's not every day that you're even going to see an amputee, period, much less one at the hip. So, when I started to read all this and I started to read the people's stories, and I was just, depressed almost, like laying in that hospital bed thinking, I'm not going to be able to do anything moving forward. Like my life is going to suck basically. And, I had a moment there where it was a pity party for me, and I felt sorry for myself and, blamed outside things. Why did this have to happen to me? I'm sitting here watching TV and, I got all these people on commercials and TV shows running around on two legs. And I'm like, all these people in the world, like, why me? Well, I know about probably 3 or 4 weeks of that kind of thinking. And I realized, like, this way of thinking is not going to get me anywhere. It's not going to get me out of this hospital bed. So I started to think about it in a different way and ask myself, why not me? Why can't I be the one to have a positive experience from all this? Why can't I be the one to show people that this is possible, with a certain way of thinking, a certain mindset, and a certain work ethic? that you have to put in every day. And this way of thinking, this mindset change that I had, has really pushed me to become, I guess, a successful hip disarticulation amputee. I tried very hard in the hospital to change my mindset, and I was successful at it. And it wasn't easy. It's still not easy every day. Every day is still a struggle. Every day is a challenge. But I feel like now that I'm prepared for this challenge, and my time spent at LSU has definitely, put me in the right place as far as, like you said, having gone through some of these hard things in life before and having dealt with it then and realizing, okay, I just ran 2,610-yard sprints in a row for time. That was extremely hard. It's extremely difficult, and I survived. I did it. So that kind of gave me the confidence that, all right, I can push myself. Now, obviously, I had to figure out my limitations as far as, trying to get around on one leg, and I had to use crutches for a long time before I got my prosthetic. But, once I kind of got a feel for, okay, these are some movements that I can go with, that I can learn, that I can use, that are going to help me, build my body back up, build my strength up. And, just having the confidence that I've been through some of this before really kind of helped push me to go the extra mile and, really try to train my body in a new way and come up with new ideas on diet and, the body's type, the style that I wanted to have to be a successful prosthetic user.
And do you think it gave you that awareness to be able to kind of look at things under the microscope, so to speak, when with a fine tooth comb and say, well, what I was doing before wasn't serving me, but like you were saying and using your own words, it's given me a new lease of life to kind of say, well, this is where I want to take my life. And I pick and choose what I take away and what I put in to be able to maximize that potential.
Yeah, definitely. Just trying to think of my child. I have a 2-year-old son at the house and a wife, and I knew that they were still going to be, dependent on me to get my life together and to get my act together and figure out a way to get this done. That was another big time, driving thing for me. Having them at the house depending on me, and I didn't want to be a burden to them. So, I tried to suck it up and go in another direction than everything I had read. Everything that we thought this would turn into, I was able to kind of divert that and try to move it in a more positive way to help me and my family. And then along the way, I kind of saw where, maybe I could help more than just me and my family. Maybe I can, help other amputees who are out there struggling. And as well as I do, James, there are lots of us out there that have a really hard time just dealing with life and doing the simplest things that, when I had 2 legs, man, I could do so many things, so many little things that I took for granted. I had no idea, how hard it would be for people out there. And I was just like, cooking breakfast in the kitchen and just doing things. And, you don't even think about that. And then I wake up in the hospital and, all of that's changed. And I realize, how difficult it can be for people. And, I just want to try to use my story and my mindset and way of thinking to try to help inspire others to, try to get their lives together and maybe, make something of themselves that they didn't think was even possible or still don't think it's possible even. So.
Do you think it's given you a greater sense of gratitude, for being appreciative of even this minute detail?
Yeah, definitely. I have a bunch of pictures in my house that, of me, walking around on 2 legs. And sometimes I'll glance at that picture and I'll think to myself, was I grateful for that left leg there in that picture. And I mean, most of the time I'll probably think probably not. I was probably worried about something small or something insignificant, and I wasn't even grateful for my own health and a easy way to get around. And that's definitely changed my perspective in life. I don't try to let small things, bother me like I used to, with work or, bills, finances, whatever it may be. At the end of the day, that stuff really doesn't matter all that much. Those are small instances in your life that we put so much thought and pressure on that really aren't going to give you a fulfilled life at the end of the road. I was very fortunate to even be able to walk away, or I guess hobble away that day with my life. And when I was laying there in the field bleeding out, I never thought once about the kind of car I drove or the house that I lived in, or how much money I made at my job. I thought about my family. I thought about my son. And when I woke up from that, when I was fortunate enough to wake up 12 days later, those things stuck with me. I'm not trying to get caught up in all the small things that we just let control our lives every day. I'm trying to really appreciate life for what it is, and have a good understanding of what matters, what's important. And I feel like I was almost given a gift that day when this terrible thing happened to me. I walked away from it with a new perspective, and I'm very grateful for that, for sure. I'm not grateful for everything that happened to me, but I am grateful for that new perspective and that new way of looking at life, in a more positive light versus a negative light, versus thinking about all the things we got to do. I'm just thinking about the things that I still have and that I'm grateful for. And, that everybody out there has these, a lot of people out there have these things. And, a lot of people take them for granted. And I feel like that with my experience, I can probably help show people that, maybe we're putting too much weight on some of these small things in life that at the end of the road really aren't going to matter,
So let me ask you this question then, Matt. What would be one thing that now, obviously after the accident, 11 months on, that you would like to have told yourself as that young individual and as the collegiate athlete?
I guess as a collegiate athlete, what I would have liked to have told myself that I have now is, that inner beast, that, that super positive mindset, that it factor is there. It's there. It's been there all along. And it's sometimes very hard to tap into, as we all know. Not everybody can tap into that it factor that really, pushes them to that next level. And I'll be the first one to say I did not have that it factor when I was there. I was physically gifted. I'm 6'6", and I could move very well, but I didn't have the mental toughness to show up to work every day and go the extra mile. I was more focused on other things outside of sports. I was focused on being a college kid and just living that life. And that's what I thought that I was missing out on. And really the whole time I was just missing out on, really showing myself that what I'm capable of, that mindset that you tap into and you start to, reach your goals and you start to, get to the next level. And, I would love to go back, and I say this all the time, if I had the drive and the fire inside of me that I have now when I was 20 years old, there's no telling what I could have accomplished then. And that's definitely something I would want to go back and, sit down and explain to my younger self that, look, man, it's there. You have it. We all have it. Every person on this earth has it. You just got to figure out a way to tap into it. And sometimes people can tap into it, on their own, sometimes you're hit with something like a tragedy or something, and it just kind of comes alive in you. And, that's something that, I'd like to share with all people is, we all have it. We all are capable of it. We just have to find a way to get there.
But do you think you kind of had an outlook from a collegiate athlete perspective as you didn't want you had this fear of missing out on what was on the periphery of technically what your I know people will say you were there as a student athlete and student first, but you're talking about obviously the party lifestyle as opposed to the academia side of things. But do you think because you weren't tapped in, zoned in, and focused and driven as your peers that made it to the next level, do you think that's probably why you have this element to a certain extent of you didn't live up to quite to your expectation that you obviously hold of yourself now?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Another thing that I got to witness down there firsthand was, I played alongside a bunch of talented individuals. Nearly every player we had on the team was talented in his own way. And, I got to watch and learn firsthand that talent wasn't necessarily going to get you to where you wanted to be. I played with a lot of guys that, that never made it, that never, got to the next level, that never got on the field in Baton Rouge. And, I consider myself one of those guys now. But, I basically got to see firsthand, talent isn't everything. Just because you're not talented at something doesn't mean you're not going to be successful. It's your work ethic. It's the it factors that you can control that are really going to drive you and push you to that next level. Talent is useless without the proper mindset, without the mindset that you can achieve what you want to achieve as long as you stick to a goal and be disciplined and work hard at it. Just because you're talented doesn't mean you're going to be successful. You've got to have the other things that come along with talent to really push yourself to the next level.
So what would you say to, sorry to interrupt you there, Matt. What would you say to people then in terms of, the argument of if talent is not going to be enough and you need to still have that work ethic, why do so many individuals and kids nowadays go to these, I'm not going to say higher prestige institutions, but be it the ones that are more in the spotlight, if they had the work rate of, be it, there's still people that have made it to the next level who've gone to smaller schools. Why do they necessarily have to go to I'll put the SEC as the beast that it is. Why does a kid choose to go to one of those Power 5 conferences if they know in themselves that they can still put in the same work ethic at a smaller school? And obviously they're not going to get the same media coverage, but that argument is kind of, you could throw that out the window now with social media.
Yeah, so that's the thing with the NFL. You see guys from all over, from schools from big to small, and everything in between. And that's really where it separates, the work ethic from the talent. I guess in high school, a lot of the guys that get the opportunity to play at these big prestigious schools are the guys that have tremendous talent, that show out on film, or they have, tremendous size or strength. These things, talent can get you in the door, but it's not going to get you to where you want to be down the road. You may have a guy that's not the biggest, not the fastest out of high school. He winds up going to a small school, but what these big schools didn't know, because they don't see him every day when he's in high school, is his work ethic and his drive to be the best. And, you can bring yourself to become the best. You may not be the most talented, but you can work hard enough and achieve the goals that you want to achieve just by having the correct mindset and waking up every day and doing all the things that it takes to get to those goals.
So let me ask you that, Matt, the other side of the argument for that then, and use you. For you being in a high-pressured environment that is an SEC school, how come that didn't bring out a fire within you from a competitive standpoint to kind of say, well, I'm going to hold my levels of and standards to a certain bit, and if I fall below those, that's not acceptable to myself?
Well, I mean, I think it all kind of boils back down to, being there and, not having the right attitude every day. A lot of times a high school kid, when they get the chance to go play at that next level, in college level, especially at a big university, they think they've already put in the work. They think they've already earned a spot. And, that couldn't be more wrong. And that was basically the trap that I had fallen into. I felt like, these coaches, they want me here. They give me a full scholarship. All I got to do is show up, put in my time, work out, and my time is going to come. And that's what I did. I mean, I was not the guy that would skipping workouts and skipping practice and not going to class. I mean, I was not that guy. I did everything that they asked me to do. But I did not push myself in a way that I should have to achieve my goals. That's a common trap that people fall into when they get the opportunity to go play at that level, is they feel like they've already earned a spot. And in actuality, you haven't. You've earned a right to have a chance at a spot, but you still have a lot of work to put in to get there. And, a lot of the kids don't understand that, you have not arrived. You have not made it once you get on campus. You still have a lot of work to put in. You have to do more than your coaches and your peers to really, set yourself up for a successful career down the road. And, that was the trap that I fell into. I felt like all I had to do was show up, do what they told me to do, and everything was just going to kind of work itself out. Well, I was wrong. And it took me 4 years to realize that. And, once I got done, I was bitter about it and I didn't want to talk about it. And I was, upset with myself. I didn't feel like I had gone down there and achieved what I, wanted to achieve. And it was hard for me to visit that. And then this happened to me 11 months ago. And it was like all of that stuff kind of fell into place and made sense. And I was able to think about it and process it and move on from it. And, basically learn from my mistake and learn how to move forward and try to make the most of, this second chance at an, athletic or career, I guess you'd call it. I'm not necessarily calling this a career, being an amputee, but it almost, you have to approach it like it is a career, because it's such a big change in your life that, takes place. And, to be successful at that career, I guess we'll just keep calling it that. I already had the building blocks. I had the tools. I had learning experiences that really helped me to thrive in it, and become successful at it. So.
And do you think because of the accident being in the bigger picture a much bigger deal to overcome than obviously the I don't want to put words into your mouth, be it rejection, to a certain extent, failure, not living up to your expectation? Do you think because obviously to the extent of obviously losing a limb, the 4 years is not a big deal?
No, it's not a big deal. You lose a limb, that's for life. It's not coming back. So yeah, I would definitely say that has probably helped, push me a little bit harder, knowing that, this is for life, and I've got to deal with this now. The faster I can get on top of this and figure this out, the more successful I'm going to be down the road. And I guess in a way, when I was playing football at LSU, it almost felt like, it was going to be there whenever I was ready for it. And it's not, down there you're on a time clock, and, you only have a set amount of years, 4 years or 5 years to get it done. And, that's definitely something that you can learn from. And I guess in a way, when this happened to me, I kind of put a time clock in my head, like something similar, that kind of helped me, achieve the goals that I wanted to achieve in a faster way. I kind of felt like I was under pressure, to get to where I wanted to be for me and my family.
Do you think it, to a certain extent, and put it into context for the listeners, do you think it comes down to a certain extent of, I don't know, words now have gone out of my head, in terms of you're in it for the moment now, as opposed to, and I've got to a certain extent similar aspects within my sporting career, that you don't live for the moment. You kind of think, well, I can look back on the glory days when I finished. I'm not going to soak it all up. I'm not going to put, from your words that you use, utilize that time that I've got on that specific day to go at it 100%. I can kind of rest on my laurels to a certain extent, show up, and that's enough. Whereas I think maybe on reflection for you and I now, well, it wasn't enough, because if we'd have shown up and maximized that full potential, it's could have, should have, would have, but we would have probably been in a different position. And as now, I think now being a coach myself, I talk about being 1% better, and people do kind of take that out of context sometimes. As to, if I do that every day for 100 days, I'll be 100% better. It's like, well, that's all a perspective. That's perception. You're not going to be at 0% to start off with. So I take that very with a pinch of salt and a little bit of, I know where you're coming from that argument, but people are going to be at different stages, be, I don't know, 50%, 40%, 80%. So that the emphasis of improvement is going to be very individualistic. But I think where you talk about goal perspective, those are going to shift. The closer you get to perfection, you might deviate and say, well, I wanted to go this direction. Now I want my perspective and ideology has changed, and I want to go in a different direction. So I think people will never attain 100%. We talk about it in sport, but it's not. Nobody is ever, even in the game of football, nobody is ever 100% perfect in any game. You're trying to strive for it, but you don't truly get to it. And I think you do shift. But I think, coming back to my point, it does come back to obviously living for that moment. Do you think now that you've become an amputee, you obviously soak up that everyday kind of perspective?
Yeah, and that, get 1% better every day. I've kind of, lived by that as well through all this. And, I think, people can get technical and say, oh, if I get 1% better every day, like you said, in 100 days, I'm going to be at 100%. Well, that's not technically what that message is. The message is that we have to just get better. And if it's just that 1% every day, if you can just achieve, 1% betterness every day, in the end, you're going to get the goals that you want, and that's really the message. It's not about, it's not a numbers game. It's more about the mindset that, I just have to get better. Even if it's just 1% today, I have to put in something, I have to do something to get better. And, on the goal setting, one thing that I've really felt that has helped me through all this is, oftentimes, everybody, every human, we set goals for ourselves. And so many times we fail to reach these goals. And, what I've done and my approach to this has been, fairly simple. It's basically you set a goal for yourself, you write it down, and you put it away. You forget about it. And then you think on all the little things that are in your control every day. What am I going to wake up? What time am I going to wake up? What am I going to eat for breakfast? What am I going to eat for lunch? What am I going to eat for dinner? When am I going to exercise? You think about the small little things that are in your control every day, and that's what you focus on. You don't focus on, I got to lose 30 pounds. You focus on, all right, I'm going to wake up at 6. I'm going to eat this for breakfast. And you do that every single day. And that's basically kind of what I've adopted since my accident 11 months ago. It's overwhelming to think about, trying to learn how to walk again, or, trying to lose, 30, 40 pounds, whatever my goal was. It's overwhelming to wake up every day and think, oh my gosh, I got to learn how to walk. You're never going to achieve that goal if you wake up and you're just immediately punched in the face by this huge, overwhelming goal that at the time does not even seem possible. So what I did was I was like, I can't think about this. I have to think about these small things. All right. I got to get out on the floor. I got to do 10 push-ups right now. I can do that in 10 seconds, and you just think about these little things that are in our control that are easy to do every single day. And eventually you're going to look up and be amazed at the progress you've made, and amazed at, how close you are to attaining your goal, or if you have attained your goal. And that's really, the approach that I've adopted through my whole recovery process. And I felt like it's been very successful for me. It may not work for everybody, but for me, it was super simple, and it kept me from thinking and being overwhelmed every day when I woke up by these huge goals that I'd set for myself that at the time, I didn't know if I could even get there. Doctors were telling me that I would never walk again, that I would be in a wheelchair most likely for the rest of my life. And 4 months later, I'm walking around again on a prosthetic. It was unreal. And the way I got there was just simply thinking about the small things every day that I can control that are easy. And eventually I got what I wanted.
And do you think, the medical profession is saying you will never be able to walk again, aren't you seeing all that negative information on the internet about dealing with your limitations? I won't call it disability, because I get what people say where it's not a great word to use, but
yeah,
be it from that point of view, and you being a very much driven person, going back to your roots within athletics, do you think it came down to the fact that you wanted to be that one person that was going to be contradictory to everything that's gone before you?
Yeah, I definitely do. That the doctor's telling me that, because of my specific injury and how bad it was, I think I had 13 surgeries in all, and I was unconscious for 12 days. And they didn't know if I would ever be able to bear weight on my residual limb or whatever I had left. And, so they were basically giving me worst case scenario, telling me that, most likely you're not going to run again. You're not going to jump. You're not going to climb. You're not going to do any of this. And, I guess it took for me, the good thing about social media is, all it took for me was I saw somebody else doing it on Instagram or Facebook, and I was like, man, if that person can do it, I can do it, and that just kind of gets me back, I guess, to my competitive nature. And I've always been competitive my whole life. My family can tell you that. I'll do whatever it takes to win, even if I got to cheat to win, I'll do it. So I'm not always proud to say that or admit that, but it's the truth, and, that's what it took for me was seeing somebody else do it, and then knowing that, hey, if that person can do it, why can't I do it, I mean, I'm not any different than them. You know, we all, like I said earlier, we all have this it factor in us. And if someone else is tapping into it and learning how to deal with this, I can't, you know. And that's the way I've kind of approached it from the get-go.
But hearing you talk there, Matt, in terms of you being told by the medical profession that you can't jump, you can't climb, what stops you being able to climb when you've lost a lower limb? I can understand them saying that if you've lost an arm or depending on the extremity of the upper limb loss, but you can still do that with one leg. Jumping, it's probably redefined as something different. It's you're doing it anyway by hopping. You're doing that just by moving.
Yeah, well, I think they were probably looking at me, and like I said earlier, I was 280 pounds the day it happened. I was a big guy. They probably were thinking, all right, there's no way this guy's going to, you know, get his body built up and have the, you know, the mental toughness to get to where he wants to be. And, you know, I knew all along, I was like, you guys are wrong, man. Like, I'm going to get there. You know, I was like, we'll see, you know, when they were sitting here telling me all this. And I proved them wrong. I'm proud to say that. I've been climbing, you know, I climb ladders and do all kinds of stuff. You know, I jump on boxes, everything. And, you know, it felt good to prove them wrong. It really did. Because I knew deep down I had it in me. I just had to figure out a way to get it out, you know.
But do you think for the, I'm not saying majority, but for a big proportion of the population, that do you encounter getting the similar ailment that you now have? Won't they be resigned to the fact to accepting that that is now my new limit because of what somebody else who we greatly respect because they're an authority figure has told me this is my new normal, and I can't be able to push beyond these barriers. This is my limit. I can't escape this because of obviously them believing that to be so because of what has what has gone before with, be it the literature, past people's negative experiences. Do you think that's very negative perspective to kind of lump everybody into a box?
Yeah, no, I definitely do. You know, the percentages I think are broken down in, you know, amputations, and I think it's like 85% of amputations are due to, you know, diabetes or some kind of vascular disorder. But, you know, and to hear a doctor say that to you is pretty tough. You know, like you said, he's an authority figure, and you can't help but think that he's seen tons of these cases, you know, when you're laying there. And, you know, he's seen countless times people that are in a wheelchair for the rest of their life and they don't ever get out of it. And it's definitely a dagger to the heart, you know, and hearing this from a medical professional. But it takes a certain kind of person to basically block that out of their head and move on past that. And, you know, it's not always easy. You know, some days I would wake up and say, man, maybe he was right. You know, maybe I am just going to be like this, and I'm not going to ever build my strength back up to a certain level. And, you know, you just got to forget about it. You got to think in a different direction. And that's where, you know, going back to focusing on these small things. Don't think about the big things. Think about the small things, you know, that you can control every day. And, you know, just see where the journey takes you down the road.
Do you think it does take, be it, you know, I'm not going to, I don't like the word influencer, but be it using your influence of being there and living it day to day, like you and I do, and countless other people do, that I will not necessarily document it, but be a guiding light for other people that are struggling and suffering, to kind of say, we've been there, we've done it, we've kind of got the t-shirt, and be it this person that is, okay, an authority figure, has never, okay, he visually sees these problems, but he physically never has to overcome them. So do you think because we are there living it, we have a better first-hand experience to kind of say, well, he's given you the facts to be, this is what he's seen in the past and this is how other people have dealt with it, but you don't have to accept that. You can kind of create your own, in a sense, your own reality as to what you can achieve and be like yourself. You're an outlier in terms of probably those figures now, as you've overcome it and come out the other side, kind of the light at the end of the tunnel kind of perspective. Do you think it does help for those individuals to say, okay, I don't want to aspire to do what I did in the athletic realm, maybe to aspire to what you've obviously accomplished, and probably you've set different goals for where you want to go in the future, but be it just to be able to live an everlasting lifestyle, be it something you're content in yourself and you're living your life to the full potential. Do you think that's where we need to come in and say, kind of, hang on a minute, this is only one side of the argument, what about the other side?
No, you're exactly right on that. And I have a story that kind of entails this a little bit. So, I was laying there in the ICU unit, and I would have people come in constantly, trying to talk to me, trying to tell me that, it was going to be okay. And, they understood I was going through something hard. And these were, for the large majority, were all able-bodied people, and I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, like, you don't have a clue. Like, you've never done this. You've never experienced what it's like to lose a limb, And I would just sit there and listen, nod my head like, yeah, whatever, okay. And I'll never forget, I was laying there one day, and a guy walked in, and he came in. He was in a scrubs. He worked there at the hospital. And he walked in, he introduced himself, and I was like, yeah, here we go again. He's just going to tell me to hang in there and I can get through this. And I remember he leaned back on the counter and he lifted his pants leg up, and he had a prosthetic leg. I think he was a BK, below knee. And I just remember when I saw that prosthetic leg, I was like, holy shit. I was like, this guy knows what I'm going through. He's been there. He's seen it. He's lived it. And immediately I just lit up, and I started to listen and ask questions and figure out, what were my challenges going to be moving forward. And, it really took seeing someone else who had been through what I had been through to really kind of create a light for me to walk towards or go towards, and to understand that, this is possible. Just because all these doctors are coming here and telling me that, I'm probably not going to walk, doesn't mean that has to be me. I choose my own path. I'm the one that has to live my life. So I'm going to choose to live it the way I want to. And to have a mentor there, to have another person who's been through a similar struggle, a similar tragedy, made all the difference. And me seeing that, this is possible, and I'm capable of doing it. If he's capable of doing it, I'm capable of doing it. And, having that competitiveness in me to be like, all right, well, if you can do it, I can do it, kind of thing, And I think a lot of people, that go through something do have a competitiveness to them. And I feel like it's our jobs, mine and your jobs, James, and any other amputees out there who are successful, to share their story and, try to help others who are struggling, that are going through a tough time, that feel hopeless and don't feel like that, they can live a life that's worth living, because that's completely false. That is not true. You can create a life for yourself that you enjoy, that you wake up and you're proud to be living every single day. Reach out to somebody, to a peer, anybody, and I'd be glad to help. I know you'd be glad to help for sure. And we can definitely discuss and talk and figure out a way to try to get you set in the right direction for sure.
So my last question to you, Matt, then, before we wrap up the episode, is if you had to summarize what we've been speaking about today into one sentence for people to take away, what would that be?
I would probably say that, your mindset is more powerful than you believe. If you can wake up and think to yourself that you can achieve the goals that you have set for yourself, and think that you can focus on the small things that get you to where you want to be, you're fully capable of doing it. Every person has this it factor in them. You just got to figure out how you can best tap into it.
So once again, Matt, thanks again for coming on the Mindset Athlete podcast.
Yep, sure thing, James. Thanks for having me.
It's been my absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
If you like this episode, please do share it with your friends, and do let Matt and I know what you thought of the episode by tagging us over on Instagram at m_c_branch and at James O Roberts 11, and that's the number 11. And you can do the same on Twitter and Facebook. And additionally, if you had any questions, don't hesitate to shoot them over as well. And as always, do check out my free content at fitamputee.co.uk and click on the tab Resources. But not forgetting, I've also started a new Facebook group, especially for the podcast, which you can find by typing The Mindset Athlete. So make sure to check those links out. They will be in the description. You can find all the show notes at mindsetgame.libsyn.com under the category Sport. So once again, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next week for another episode of the Mindset Athlete podcast.